Once again, friends, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. As always, I am Zak, the Corruption Detector, and this is another edition of Red Pill News. We've got several interesting stories to go over today. First of all, we've got some new information from Paul Sperry. Senate investigators are seeking State Department records, and we're going to be talking all about those. Then we have an exchange between former senior advisor Valerie Jarrett to President Obama and Maria Bartiromo regarding Trump spying, and I think it's going to be very illuminating. Then we have a report coming from the Cuban community in Louisville. Apparently, BLM organizers are attempting to extort them using mafia-like tactics. And finally, we have an exclusive report on the full witness list on the congressional hearing regarding the Antifa Black Bloc protesters. We're going to be going over all of this and more, so please, everyone, sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Camping and hiking is exploding around the country right now, despite extended lockdowns. Some camping companies are reporting long lines and quadruple the demand for camping gear and accessories. When you go on your next camping trip, make sure you bring along the solar water heater by Prepper's Peak. I keep one on me for camping or in my car daily just in case of an emergency. With the solar water heater, you can heat or boil water in up to 30 minutes virtually anywhere. The solar water heater doesn't require any outlets or batteries because it's entirely solar powered. It's lightweight, portable, and durable, and only weighs 2.6 pounds. Now when I'm camping, I no longer have to go through the work of gathering dry wood and trying to start a fire to have delicious heated food. I enjoy tea, coffee, noodles, cooked rice, and more. And the added bonus is there's no flame, there's no smoke, and there's no noise. Now, as an added bonus today, exclusively for my listeners, they're giving away the next 100 solar water heaters for 15% off. Once the first 100 get sold, they're going to go back to the regular price. And as another added bonus, you'll get insured express shipping if you go to solarwaterheater.com or click the link in the description or pinned comment below. Don't wait for a crisis to happen to wish you had your own solar water heater. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all, today we're going to be talking about Senate investigations into the origins of the Steele dossier and the investigations into President Trump, however dishonest they might have been. After the recent revelations that the primary subsource of the Steele dossier was Igor Danchenko, a former fellow at the Brookings Institution, Senate investigators are now demanding that the State Department produce all records from 2016 and 17 meetings, plus communications between ex-Brookings President Strobe Talbot, Fiona Hill, and other Brookings fellows and DOS officials, including Newland, Kvelik, and Weiner, regarding the Steele dossier, plus Department of State communications with Blumenthal and Shearer. All of these names should be very familiar, as they were deeply involved in not only the Steele dossier itself, but with the spreading of many lies against President Trump. Now, let's take a look at an article from Just the News talking about the expansion of additional Senate investigations. Well, just a few days ago, in a dramatic expansion of the Russia probe, it was announced that Senate investigators are now targeting Clowns in America and State Department records. Senators Grassley and Johnson have asked for sweeping document requests from the Clowns in America, the DNI, and the State Department in their Russia probe. Now, these two committee chairmen are expanding their hunt for documents that might shine additional light on abuses during the bungled Russia collusion probe, and they're demanding that this new evidence be turned over by current Clowns in America Director Gina Haspel and, of course, Kansas Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Now, Senate Homeland and Governmental Affairs Committee Chairman Ron Johnson and Senate Finance Committee Chairman Charles Grassley sent individual letters this week to the Clowns in America, State Department, the Office of the DNI, and the FBI that signal the scope of their probes has expanded with recent new revelations. Now, many of these new requests appear to focus on people who are suspected to have contributed materials to Christopher Steele's now now thoroughly discredited anti-Trump dossier, or people who trafficked information from the opposition research memo to these government officials. For instance, some of the records demanded from Pompeo's State Department include the Clinton acolyte and former Deputy Secretary of State Strobe Talbot, who has admitted he received and provided copies of the Steele dossier, former associates Cody Shearer and Sidney Blumenthal. Shearer is a relative of Talbot who wrote a dossier similar to Steele's that was provided to the former MI6 agent Christopher Steele, and former State Department officials Victoria Nuland, Jonathan Weiner, and Kathleen Kvelic, all of whom had contact with Christopher Steele as he was developing his dirty dossier. Now, they also made their most sweeping demands for records from the clowns in America, including any information the spy agency provided to the FBI concerning the credibility of Steele's human source. That would be Igor Danchenko. Recently declassified footnotes from the Justice Department's Inspector General Michael Horowitz's report on this Russia probe and the abuses revealed inside of it show that the clowns in America had raised red flags about Steele's reporting, including that he had been targeted with Russian intelligence agency disinformation about Donald Trump while writing the dossier. Now, Senators Grassley and Johnson are also pressing the clowns in America for any records of requests for assistance from foreign allies in the Russian collusion probe, and we know there were many Five Eyes countries that were involved. Specifically, they requested all records related to assistance requests about the persons or conduct at issue in the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane investigation, whether it was before or after the opening of the investigation, to the following foreign governments. This is a big one: Australia, Israel, and the United Kingdom, asking for this information in their letter to Gina Haspel. Now, the clowns in America were also pressed for records concerning the conduct of former Obama-era director John Brennan, including his contact about the Russia probe with fired director of the FBI James Comey and then Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid, as well as any travel he took to Ukraine, Russia's neighbor. Now, one of the most highly anticipated requests from the letters involved DNI John Ratcliffe, who was asked specifically to declassify a lengthy report written by former House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes and his staff, highlighting major failures in the intelligence community's assessment about Russia's intentions in the 2016 election. Now, the report is believed to highlight both spy tradecraft mistakes and dissension among clowns in America analysts over the Obama administration's conclusion that Russia's intention was to help Trump win and Hillary Clinton lose. Now, evidence has since emerged since the conclusion was reached in January 2017, before Trump took office, conflicting with the analysis. And for instance, the clowns in America's warning to the FBI that Russians were feeding bogus dirt on Trump to Clinton's chief researcher cut against that conclusion. Clearly, everything we've learned since the election of Donald Trump has been that this dirty dossier was a Clinton bought and paid for disinformation campaign. And if anything, her and her cronies are the people who were working with the Russians. If Hillary Clinton would have won, it would have been the end of America, and it would have been big business for both Russia and China. We dodged a major bullet in 2016, and we have continued to dodge one all along the way. And Senators Grassley and Johnson are doing the difficult work that is needed to prove that these people colluded with a foreign government, multiple foreign governments. We're talking Russia, we're talking Israel, we're talking United Kingdom, we're talking Australia, in order to try to dethrone President Trump before he even took office. I have major revelations coming out in the next couple of weeks, specifically about Australia. I want you guys to know that this has been going on for far longer than anyone had ever thought in the past. All right, so on this note about corruption in the Obama administration, let's move on to that interview between Valerie Jarrett and Maria Bartiromo. All right, so this is just absolutely unreal. We already know what happened. The Obama administration was spying on President Trump. There was that infamous meeting in the Oval Office where they discussed as much. And now Valerie Jarrett, the former senior advisor to Obama and his current roommate, was on Sunday Morning Futures this weekend with Maria Bartiromo, and she refused to answer whether or not President Obama knew about the spying on President Trump. It seems like a pretty clear-cut thing. Either he knew or he didn't. And if she says no, then she's lying. If she says yes, then she is going to be throwing her former boss and current landlord under the bus. Now, Valerie Jarrett would not answer the question as to whether or not President Obama directed any of the spying and investigations into candidate and President Trump. Maria had Senator Ron Johnson on Sunday Morning Futures, and during this segment, Bartiromo shared a piece from her interview earlier this week with Obama close aide Valerie Jarrett. Now, when Bartiromo asked Jarrett whether former President Obama directed any of the criminal and corrupt spying on the Trump campaign, Jarrett would not answer, which is an answer in and of itself. By not addressing the question, Jarrett indirectly admits that President Obama was behind the fraudulent and criminal spying and investigations targeting candidate and President Trump. Of course, this comes as no surprise. Let's go ahead and take a look at the clip. All right, so first of all, I just want to give props to my buddy Josh, the Dirty Truth, on Twitter, at aka_Real Dirty. If you guys want to follow him, he's a great account. He gets some incredible clips, and he has been retweeted by none other than our man, Devin Nunes. So let's go ahead and take a look at this clip from Maria Bartiromo interviewing Senator Ron Johnson.
We have copies of those letters. Let's show them on air, because you are asking, and you sent a letter to Secretary Pompeo, you sent a letter to Secretary Haspel, you sent a letter to Bill Barr, and you're asking for all records related to Christopher Steele's contact with the State Department. You're asking for records related to meetings or communications between Glenn Simpson and State Department officials. You also want to know about Stefan Halper and what Stefan Halper was paid. I know that the Office of Net Assessments paid out initially $244,000 to Stefan Halper to write a report on China and Russia. Can you tell me a little about that?
Well, again, what we are doing is we're becoming much more specific in our requests. I got subpoena authority that was quite broad. The members of my committee wanted us to first try and get the information on a voluntary basis. We've been doing that for the last month. You know, I'm losing my patience. You know, we've given people every opportunity. Personally, I'd be surprised if we didn't start seeing us issue some subpoenas to some individuals and some of these agencies. You know, we've learned more. We've gotten more specific in our requests. Some of our requests are broad because we just don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we're really asking for. But some of our requests are very specific. There's probably not that much information. These agencies should be able to get that information. They probably already have it. There's probably classification issues, or they'll use classification as an excuse not to give it to us. But we are pressing forward. I'm losing my patience. We're going to start compelling some of this probably in the near future.
So, in other words, you're going to do subpoenas next week?
Well,
will you
it wouldn't surprise me if we start issuing subpoenas. It's a real possibility.
Senator Johnson, if these departments are unable or unwilling to voluntarily give over the information that you need on your committee to do this full and thorough investigation, then yes, subpoenas are necessary. We, the American people, are beginning to wane. We have been waiting long enough. 3.5 years we've been going through this over and over and over again. And it's time that Republicans use the power they have to lawfully compel these agencies to give the information that is necessary to get this truth out to the public. We already know the truth, but we need the truth to be put forward in the form of indictments. People paying for what they did to not only our president and our country, but the people of this great nation. We have suffered long enough. Now, let's take a look at that clip with Valerie Jarrett.
Obama direct any of this?
That's not how it works. That's not how our investigations work. That we leave that to the intelligence community to bring forward information, and the dossier, I would imagine, would be one piece of a much bigger puzzle. And so if you're saying, is it important to make sure that there isn't influence? And actually, the Mueller report didn't conclude that there wasn't any wrongdoing. In fact, he was explicit in saying quite the opposite. And so I don't think we should read in where there hasn't been actually any conclusions to that effect yet. You're making statements that actually haven't been
just to be clear. Just to be clear, Robert Mueller said no collusion. Michael Horowitz, the IG of the FBI, said that the dossier was, quote unquote, an essential piece of all of this investigating of the Trump campaign. Essential piece was the word Michael Horowitz used. So you say it was part of a larger mosaic. We have no evidence of that. Senator, this is the first time we've heard from the Obama administration. She said it doesn't work that way.
Well, you'll notice she didn't answer your question. She just talked about in general what the process should be. That's not the process they followed. It is very clear that there was corruption at the highest levels of certainly the FBI. We have evidence of it. I'm looking forward to John Durham wrapping up his investigation. You know, I personally believe that the intelligence community was involved in this thing. You know, their initial goal was to exonerate Hillary Clinton when you know, so that she could win election. When she lost the election, their goal shifted to first and foremost, I think, sabotaging the Trump administration, which they've done a pretty good job of. Also, I think initiating this diversionary operation, the smoke screen to cover up their wrongdoing, the fact that they used all the awesome powers of their agencies to investigate their political opponent. They didn't want that revealed. It's being revealed right now. So again, Valerie Jarrett simply isn't answering the question. That's our job. We need to get the information. But as I stated earlier, they still have so many of their supporters in these agencies. They are doing a pretty good job at hiding the ball. It's hard to extract the information, but I'm a pretty tenacious guy.
All right. So first of all, part of a larger mosaic, that is an absolute falsehood. There was no larger mosaic. The Steele dossier was plan A, B, and C. Use the Steele dossier to discredit President Trump and derail his presidency, seed it out into friendly mainstream media outlets, and then use that as confirmation of the evidence that they created in the Steele dossier. And next, Valerie Jarrett completely sidestepping the question about Obama directing the spying on President Trump and his campaign. Obviously, Obama directed the spying onto President Trump and his campaign. This is one thing that I notice about people in government. When they want to get around what's actually taken place, they quote you the process that should take place. Unfortunately, that only works if you're following the rules. If instead you are doing it your own way and going about it completely illegally, then it doesn't matter what the rules are. And the only thing that matters is the culpability that this former administration tried to use the power of their might to take down President Trump. They are the ones who are guilty, and they are the ones who need to be fully investigated. And yes, we are all looking forward to Durham wrapping up his investigation, because once he does, it's going to show that this was run 100% from the top down. Obama is the key. All right, next, coming out of Louisville, the Cuban community is rallying to support the Louisville businesses that are being targeted by the BLM protesters. More than 100 members of the Louisville Cuban community gathered at La Bodeguita de Mima on Market Street to rally in support of the immigrant-owned restaurant. Now, the rally came after a controversial letter from BLM protesters laid out demands that aim to improve diversity in New Lou, which is known for its locally owned shops and restaurants. Fernando Martinez is a partner at Ole Restaurant Group, and he publicly denounced the letter's demands on Facebook, calling them mafia tactics used to intimidate business owners. On Thursday, a small group of protesters gathered outside his restaurant in protest, and for about 10 minutes on Sunday, Martinez gave a passionate speech to the crowd with his mother and relatives standing alongside him. Now, what were they looking for in this letter? Well, some of the demands requested by BLM protesters included that New Lou businesses adequately represent Louisville's black population by having a minimum of 23% black staff, purchasing a minimum of 23% inventory from black retailers, or donating 1.5% of net sales to a local black nonprofit or organization, and requiring diversity and inclusion training for all staff members on a biannual basis. That's right. They are making demands of local business owners, and if the business owners don't want to meet those demands, or rather are unable, all they have to do is give up 1.5% of their net profits. The restaurant owner said, "It's sad that we have to justify who we are to these people. We need to come together as a community. We're not an enemy of the black community. We're all people, and we come in all colors." Now, no police or counter-protesters were present at this speech, and Sadiqa Reynolds, the president and CEO of the Louisville Urban League, voiced her displeasure on Facebook and announced that she will no longer eat at restaurants that Martinez owns. Rather than respond to demands tendered, even in the negative, and affirm that he is aware of the pain our people are in, instead he chooses to highlight what he believes is his superiority, she wrote. You've got to be kidding me. I'm not sure why any human other than a racist would choose this time to tell us how little our lives matter. That is absolutely not what's happening in this time. He talked about the inclusion of all people. His message was they are not enemies of the black community, that they are not racists, that they are simply not going to give in to these demands, which are clearly mafia tactics. Just take a look at what the mafia does in major metropolitan areas all across the country, and this is very similar to it. It's also similar to what Antifa members did in Seattle when the Chaz was initially being established, demanding protection money from local businesses so that they would be able to continue operating. Now, Fuentes said, although our community has achieved great success in the city, we continue to miss our homeland, our neighborhoods we grew up in, and our families we left behind. We did not want to leave all of those, but we had to. We had to escape the socialist government that took away our grandparents' private businesses in 1959 and continue to restrict our civil and political rights today. Now, Fuentes went on to say that many risked their lives to pursue freedom, respect, and prosperity, and those values are under attack because of the diffusion and expansion of Marxist ideas. Remember who runs BLM. The community is against any kind of discrimination, any kind of violence, or any kind of extortion. Several members drove from Frankfurt and Lexington in order to show support of Martinez. Everybody wants justice, but it's not by dividing people, it's by uniting people. The message given out by this restaurant owner and by the Cuban people of the Louisville community could not possibly be mistaken for anything racist or be mistaken for anything denigrating any member of any community. The only one that it's denigrating to is the Marxist ideals of the people running BLM. It's a sad, sad day when you see these Cuban dissidents forced to flee from their homeland, forced to give up everything they knew, everything they owned, everything that they had ever had a connection to come to America, to find the success that was stolen from them in their homeland, and to wake up to a letter demanding that they provide 1.5% of their net profits to an organization which is coming in and making demands. It's an absolutely disgusting thing, and I cannot believe it's happening in America today. This has to stop. All right, and finally, from the Daily Caller, we have the full witness list for the upcoming congressional hearing on Antifa violence. Now, a Senate subcommittee is holding a congressional hearing on the violence caused by Antifa, and they're going to be hearing from a number of witnesses whose names have first been identified by the Daily Caller. Now, the Senate subcommittee on the Constitution, which is chaired by Republican Texas Senator Sen Cruz, will be held today, and he's going to be calling it the right of the people peaceably to assemble, protecting speech by stopping anarchist violence. The hearing will reportedly detail the riots and much more, and we're going to be hearing from Deputy DHS Secretary Ken Cuccinelli, U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Texas and the co-head of the Department of Justice Task Force on Violent Anti-Government Extremists, that would be Earl Neely Cox, journalist Andy Ngo, who caught that cement shake to the head, Director and Senior Analyst for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism at the Center for Security Policy, that would be Kyle Scheidler, George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley, Brennan Center fellow Michael German, and President and CEO of the Urban League of Portland, and Kenge Harmon Johnson. Now, this testimony comes as the riots continue across the country, with a number of statues being destroyed and defaced by rioters, and federal buildings and police officers also being violently assaulted and vandalized. Many citizens of America, as well as lawmakers all across the country, have been calling for an end to the violence caused by this group to stop, while others, like Democratic New York Representative Jerry Nadler, called it a myth. Let's go ahead and take a look at that clip.
There's violence across the whole country. Do you disavow the violence from Antifa that's happening in Portland right now? There's riots.
That's a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
About Antifa in Portland?
Yes.
Sir, there's videos everywhere online. There's fires and riots. They're throwing fireworks at federal officers. DHS is there. Look online. It gets crazy, Mr. Nadler.
Now, I don't think I need to go into any specific video footage showing the violence taking place across the country. We've all seen it. We've been inundated for the last several months. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave you guys with that. Jerry Nadler telling us that the violence occurring all across the country is a myth being spread only in Washington, D.C. including the fact that Washington, D.C. is one of those places where violence has taken place. Thank God for the federal officers keeping these courts safe all across the country, and thank you to the Democrat governments of these areas for exposing yourself so completely, so in the next election, hopefully you can be replaced. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, it's Red Pill. I just wanted to say once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel. If you want to, there are links in the description of this video below for several different ways that you can help out. Also, don't forget that when you support my sponsors, you are supporting the channel. Without them, I would not be able to keep doing the work that I'm doing. Also, if you are not already, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and that you click that notification bell to make sure that you get notifications every time that I do put a video out. And you can also follow me on Twitter at RedPill78. So thanks again, you guys, and I'll see you next time.